One day, I came home and found out my husband had disappeared without any explanation. A few days later, I learned that he had run off with my sister. That was 12 years ago. Recently, he called me, saying, "I'm coming to my house with my wife, and you're in my way. Get out of my parents' house." He was angry that I was still living at his parents' home. It's been 12 years since they ran away together, and I guess he now wants to officially bring my sister in as his wife, thinking everything has settled down. But they have no idea how much the family, including me, has changed since then. My name is Melanie Miller, and I'm 27 years old. I studied web design in college and started working at a web design company. That's where I met my husband, Chen. He worked in sales and had a friendly personality that drew me in. After dating for a year, we got married. After we married, I moved in with his parents, and I quit my job to become a freelance web designer, working from home so I could focus on our household and support Shane. At first, it was hard to find steady work, but now I have no trouble finding jobs and keeping a stable income. I can work at my own pace and still put my family first. I used to spend quality time with my husband and his family in the mornings, evenings, and even before bed. I was really happy with my life, but I started noticing that my husband's friendly attitude was changing. It all began when I started making twice as much money as I used to at my old job. I was so excited that I had surpassed my old salary. I couldn't wait to tell my husband. When he came home from work, I rushed to the door with a big smile on my face and said, "Chen, guess what? Last month, I made double what I used to make at my old job." His response surprised me. "What? Are you serious? Didn't your last job have good benefits and pay?" "Yeah, but I've been aiming higher, and I finally achieved it," I said, expecting him to be proud. "Yeah, okay," he replied flatly. "What? Do you want me to throw you a party?" His sarcastic and negative tone shocked me. I didn't understand why he was acting that way, so I asked him, "Chen, are you upset with me? Did I do something wrong? I thought you'd be happy for me." "Why would I be happy? It's not like my salary went up," he said coldly. I was confused. "But can't you just be happy for your wife?" "I'm not like you," he snapped. "I'm just not naturally happy." After that argument, my husband became even more distant. He barely talked to me, and our conversations became shorter and shorter. Eventually, I was the only one saying good morning and good night. Even though we had only been married for a year, it already felt like we were far from happy. My in-laws, who we lived with, started to notice the tension between Shane and me. They were worried, but they never said anything. 2 months passed, and nothing changed. We ate meals together in silence. Shane would change the TV channel when I was watching something, and he would eat all the food I bought without asking. Whenever I tried to talk to him about it, we'd just argue, so I stayed quiet. One day, while I was cleaning, my mother-in-law came up to me looking concerned. "Melanie, how are you? Are you okay?" she asked. "What do you mean? Am I okay?" I replied, confused. "Well, when you and Shane first got married, you used to go out and enjoy time together, but lately, it seems like you don't do that anymore, and you don't even talk," she said. "We've only been married for a year," I answered, but it felt strange to say that. I forced a smile to reassure her, but she could see through it. "If you don't want to talk, that's okay, but I'm worried about you. Lately, you seem down," she said seriously. "I'm fine," I tried to say, but she told me that even her husband had noticed. They were both worried I was overwhelming myself. Honestly, I started to think maybe it was my fault. Shane was uncomfortable with me earning more, but at the same time, I felt so alone in my success. Her concern touched me, and I started to tear up. I decided to tell her everything. After listening, she rubbed my back and said, "I'm so sorry for his behavior. He's not mature enough to be happy for you and your success." "No, it's my fault," I said. "I was selfish to think he would be happy for me." She shook her head. "That's not something you should have to worry about in a marriage, Melanie. If you keep all your feelings inside, it's only going to get worse." I don't think it can get any worse, I sighed. Then the two of you need to seriously talk about this. Can you do that? She asked. Yes, I can, I replied. After talking to my mother-in-law, I felt better. She smiled and patted my head, telling me, of course, I'm here for you. My in-laws had always treated me like their own daughter, and their support gave me strength. With her advice in mind, I decided to have a real conversation with my husband. That night, I stayed up waiting for him to come home, but as the hours passed, there was no sign of him. He was usually home by 10 p.m., but it was already past 11. I texted him, "What's taking you so long?" but got no reply. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. I kept waiting anxiously. Finally, around midnight, he walked in the door. I greeted him, but he sighed loudly and looked annoyed. "What are you doing up so late?" he asked. "I wanted to have a serious talk with you," I said. "About what?" he responded, sounding irritated. "This all started because of my new salary." "Right, I probably should have kept it to myself. I know it must have hurt your ego," I said, trying to be open. The moment I said that, I felt a chill. His cold, hateful look frowned me in fear. "There's nothing to talk about," he said angrily, "and it's pathetic that you're waiting up for me." "I'm just trying to make things better between us," I said. "That's the problem," he shot back. "Clearly, I made a mistake marrying you. I'm tired from working overtime, and you don't get to talk. You just sit around at home all day." He stormed past me and went upstairs. I couldn't move until I was sure he was fully upstairs. I couldn't understand why he was talking to me like that. All I wanted was to have a normal, happy married life. My mother-in-law had encouraged me to talk to him, but nothing had been resolved. After his reaction, I didn't want to push for another conversation. It felt like he completely dismissed me as a person, and my heart started to harden. 2 more months passed, and we barely spoke. Every day felt long and empty. Then one day, I came home and found that my husband was gone. I felt strange when I looked in Shane's room. He was usually messy, but it was surprisingly clean this time. I noticed his clothes and suitcase were gone. That's when I realized he had moved out. I quickly tried to call my in-laws, but their phone was either off or disconnected. While I was still panicking, my sister Mimi called me. "Hi sis, long time no see," she said cheerfully. "Mimi, I can't talk right now. Shane isn't here," I replied urgently. "What? How do you know that?" she asked, sounding surprised. Then she told me something shocking. "I'm with your husband right now," she said. "What do you mean?" "I saw him at a bar. We had a drink, and he mentioned you two weren't getting along." "Mimi, no, you can't be serious. I'm dating him, and we're planning to get married, so don't try to stop me. Please, bring Shane back home," I pleaded. "I'm sorry, but I've liked him for a while. He's tall and handsome. I want him," she said. Then the line went silent. I tried calling her back many times, but she never answered. Instead, she sent me pictures of them together, smiling on dates. It hurt to see. A few days later, I received divorce papers signed by Shane. I called his job, but they said he had already resigned. I knew I couldn't go through this alone, so I told my parents and in-laws what happened and asked for their support. Shane and Mimi are together now. He quit his job and is making me sign the divorce papers, I explained. Everyone was shocked. My father-in-law finally spoke up. "Melanie, I'm truly sorry for our son's actions. I don't expect you to forgive him or your sister," he said. "Oh, father," I replied. "And I can't forgive Mimi either. You're like a daughter to me, and they have hurt you," he added. Everyone agreed with him. At that moment, my in-laws completely changed how they felt about Shane and Mimi. They were even considering moving to a new house. After hearing what happened, they said they wanted nothing to do with Shane anymore and moved without telling him. My parents also decided to cut ties with Mimi. They said if she ever came back, they would act like they didn't know her. "Anyone who would take her sister's husband is no daughter of ours," they reasoned. I decided to take this opportunity to go back home to my parents. I asked for alimony in exchange for agreeing to the divorce. Shane replied, "You get alimony when I get my divorce." But in the end, I received several million yen along with a message telling me to divorce him. As soon as the divorce was finalized, I cut all ties with Shane and Mimi. It's been 12 years since then, and a lot has changed. My in-laws tore down the house we all lived in and sold the land. I've become a well-known web designer, and my salary is much higher now. Because of this, I can travel regularly with my parents and enjoy a fulfilling life. Today, while I was working, I got a call. I answered without looking at the caller ad, thinking it was a client, but it brought back bad memories. "It's been a long time, Melanie. How have you been?" It was Shane. I recognized his voice right away. "What do you want? After 12 years, now you want to talk?" I could hear him chuckle. "You're in my house. Get out in the next 10 minutes. "What are you talking about?" "We're in financial trouble. I'm bringing my wife home, so you need to leave my parents' house now." He still thought I was living with his parents after all these years. He really believed that everything was fine now. In the background, I heard my sister's voice saying, "That's right, get out of there." But they don't understand. Do they really think everything is forgiven just because it's been 12 years? The world isn't that kind, and I'll show them if I have to. I took a deep breath and said, "If you want to go home, go ahead. I'm not living at your parents' house anymore." "Oh really? Did my dad kick you out?" he asked, sounding confused. "How dumb can you be? Your parents' house doesn't even exist anymore." "What do you mean it doesn't exist?" I could hear the panic in Shane's voice as he realized what I meant. He had just pulled up to where the house used to be. "What the hell?" he screamed, and I could hear his distress. I continued, "As soon as you eloped, we cut ties with both of you. Your parents moved out, and my parents completely disowned the woman you're with. There's nowhere for you to come back to." "Are you kidding me? How is this even possible?" "Believe it or not, I don't consider you family anymore. You both ruined people's lives and aren't worthy of that title." "That's terrible, but family. Don't ever call me again. I won't let you ruin my life any more than you already have." I hung up and blocked their number, cutting off the last connection. After they failed to go to his parents' house, they tried mine, but my parents had already disowned my sister. She was crying loudly, and my parents just asked, "Who are you?" and ignored her at the gate. Then they got down on their knees and begged, "Please forgive us. We have nowhere to go." Shane was there too, saying, "Please, my parents' house is gone. We have nowhere to stay." My parents shouted back, "We don't care. You're not family anymore." My father even sprinkled salt on the front door to protect it. "Please wait, I'm begging you," my sister cried. My father replied, "You don't get to call me that. Get out of here." They were so persistent that he sprinkled salt on them, and my mother called the cops for trespassing. It hadn't been seen since. The last I heard, they were jobless and homeless, asking friends for money, but by then, everyone knew what they had done, and no one wanted to help them. It's unlikely they could even survive in their hometown. They'll have to start over somewhere else, but they brought this on themselves and made their choices, and now they'll have to face the consequences. My parents and I will never see them again, and they'll live the rest of their lives with regret.